Good afternoon to all the respected dignitaries and dear participants. I would like to begin with a thought. In taxation, compliance is not just about following the law, but about upholding the integrity of the profession. With this perspective, and on behalf of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, I, CA Mansi Agrawal, extend a warm welcome to all of you to today's insightful webinar on intermediary services under GST, recent developments and practical insights. In today's evolving GST landscape, interpretation and implementation remain equally critical. The concept of intermediary services continue to be one of the most debated and litigated areas, making it essential for professionals like us to stay updated with both legal and developments and practical implications. Today's session is designed exactly with this objective to provide practical insights and clarity on a subject that continues to challenge and engage the profession. Before we proceed, it is my privilege to acknowledge our esteemed leadership. We are honored to have with us CA Umesh Sharma, Chairman, GST and Indirect Taxes Committee. He is known for his leadership and continuous efforts in strengthening knowledge sharing initiatives for the profession. We're equally privileged to have Sri Rajendra Kumar P., Vice Chairman of the GST and Indirect Taxes Committee, whose extensive experience and continued contributions in the field of indirect taxation have been instrumental in advancing professional knowledge and practice. I now request Sri Rajendra Kumar P., Vice Chairman, GST and Indirect Taxes Committee, to kindly deliver the opening remarks.
Thank you, CA Mansi Agrawal, and congratulations to you for coming on the national platform of ICAI to this very vibrant committee, which has been more vibrant since the time CA Umesh Sharma took over as chairman. So, congratulations to you, Mansi ji.
Thank you, sir.
My very esteemed chairman and the AI avatar of ICAI, and a person who delivers motivational lectures, and we all get motivated because of that also. My very, very dear friend, CA Umesh Sharma ji, who hails from the excellent city of Sambhaji Nagar, formerly known as Aurangabad. We also have in our screen a very senior looking chartered accountant, CA Vishal Podar ji. He looks senior, but he is not that. So don't mistake me, Vishal ji. He looks senior, but there are still many more years to go with the senior tag. I am saying senior in the profession. But Vishal Podar has been a constant supporter for the GST and Indirect Taxes Committee of ICI. Whether any lecture, seminar, training program, review of articles, writing of something, Vishal Podarji is always on the forefront. In fact, I have known him for now few years. We interacted with each other. We have traveled to many places together for delivering many, many seminars and organizing many programs of GST and Indirect Taxes Committee. And he is here today one more time. Our chairman's vision for the committee is sky high. Sky high vision with the feet firmly on the ground. That is, I say short about Umesh Sharma. A person who thinks GST, who sleeps GST, who eats GST, but in between somewhere AI came and stuck him also. So he was also the chairman of the Artificial Intelligence Committee of ICI last year. And we are very happy that uski ghar वापसी हो गई है GST में. He become the chairman again in the GST committee. For the first time, of course, he is the chairman. So when he was chairing the AI committee, we are not very happy because this was his home turf में खेलना था, but he went somewhere. But there also he created wonder. AI, the kind of awareness that he created in the AI committee, it has resulted in something very, very different happening in ICI. The immediate past president ICI took over that particular committee as the chairman. See, a past president chairing an AI committee, because it's already very popular, very famous. Even everyone knows AI. But we are very happy. Umesh Sharma is back again where he belongs to, the GST Indirect Taxes Committee. And thank you, Chairman, sir, for leading us from the front. You have been a person who believes in a regular working of the committee, who believes in ensuring that every change is informed to members, who believes in ensuring that every member is up to date and the committee is on its toes at all times. Vishal Podarji, thank you very much for being with us here, and I'm very glad that you will be certainly creating wonders again today when you speak on intermediary, which as a concept is a nebulous concept. Now, who is an intermediary, who is not an intermediary, depends on so many factors, not merely on the function the person performs. It's just a thin line of difference sometimes, I may say. So it's a concept which has to be understood. It's a concept you have to learn to understand from speakers like Vishal Podarthi. Thank you very much to the committee also. Committee today is represented by Jaya, a very, very young chartered accountant, a very, I can say, a daughter-like chartered accountant for me. Such a young girl is there working in the ICAI. Compliments to her for a bright future. Over to you, Mansi, for further deliberations.
Thank you, sir. I now invite CA Umesh Sharma, Chairman, GST and Indirect Taxes Committee, to deliver the welcome address.
Yeah, thank you, Mansi, and your presence and your words have brought a lot to this webinar. Thanks for it. And when we listen to our passionate chairman, it's always fatherly and brotherly guidance to all of us. And I never called him as a vice chairman of this committee because he is the passionate chairman of the GST committee. He is heading this committee from last so many years, and we are continuing his guidance, and his words of wisdoms are benchmark for all of us in GST committee. So thank you, RK sir, for being there and guiding us. And under his words of wisdoms, this year we are continuing the legacy of sir. Now we are coming up with GST Art, a 3 days level 1 workshop for all our members. We have sent emails to all the branches, and the members will soon be able to join this workshop across wherever there is a request come to us. So it was a program designed under the guidance of RK sir, and it is one of the benchmark program which we are focusing this year, because GStat has now become live and many benches are in process of operation. Myself and RK sir has met GStat President Mishra sir, and outreach programs are also been planned. And people, friends, we are very happy. It's a big note that on 9th of May, next month, in Chennai, we are having an outreach program with who's and who nots of GStat under leadership of our RK sir. Further, we are planning it at the all different benches and wherever the requests are coming from the branches. So two programs are there. One is the outreach and one is the GST art. GST art level 1, 3 days workshop. What is GST art? A means adjudication, art means representation, and T means tribunal. So get your art of GST enhanced by joining GST art level 1 workshops. Further, we are already in process of 14 books on different aspects, different industry specific subject. We have floated that in our website. We have floated in our WhatsApp group, our WhatsApp channel, which you people can join. It is there in the banner in the JPG of this program also. Please join this WhatsApp channel. We regularly post our updates in that WhatsApp channel. So friends, you can also be a writer. You can also be a reviewer in the book. The 14 books we have planned. So please join that book writing competition. Further webinars and seminars are already in pipeline, and we are very much eager and very much happy to have your suggestions, your comments, your matter of significant representations to the central government or the state government related to GST, because we met GST Council member we met CBIC member, we met GStat member. So whatever suggestions are there from your side, our committee regularly compiles and forward it to the government. So we are integral part of GST process in India. All this due to our RK sir's efforts, our committee's efforts, and our members' support, because GST committee crossed highest CPs in ICI from whatever committees are there as compared to other committees. So we are on highest level on CP. So this shows our continued efforts for sharing knowledge. This showed our continued commitment towards our members. So please stay connected. This important topic of intermediary after the amendment has become a more important topic, and we have a person whose name itself is Vishal. ज्ञान का विशाल भंडार है, उसमें से वो छोटा सा इंटरमीडिएटरी का सेशन आज लेगा. सो वी ऑल आर लुकिंग फॉरवर्ड टू यू, एंड मानसी, keep continuing the good work in your life. As said by RK sir, you just pass out and you are a member of this esteemed institute. So stay happy, keep learning. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your insights. This is It is now privileged to introduce our esteemed speaker for today's session, CA Vishal Govind Prasad Poddar. Sir is the Chief Advisor at Ashwa Legal LLP and brings with him over 2 decades of rich experience in taxation and assurance, with a strong focus on GST, litigation, and advisory. He has been actively involved in advisory and litigation matters across GST, service tax, excise, and customs, and has represented clients before authorities and tribunals. He is empaneled as a technical resource with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and is a regular speaker at leading professional and industry forums, contributing actively to the knowledge dissemination in the field of indirect taxation. Sir has contributed extensively to the GST knowledge development, including participation in ICI publications and training programs, and has also been part of expert panels shaping GST understanding. He is the recipient of prestigious recognitions, including the TIOL National Taxation Award in 2022 and Distinguished GST Trainer Award, reflecting his excellence and contribution to the profession. With such vast experience and deep expertise, we are truly privileged to have him guide us on today's topic. With this, I now invite Vishal sir to take over the session.
Thank you, Mansi. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I take this privileged opportunity to thank ICI Indirect Tax Committee for affording me an opportunity once again. And I would like to bring it on record that whatever I am today in indirect tax has a great contribution by Umesh Bhaiya, who gave me the platform at various regional branches, and RK sir, Rajendra Kumar P sir, who gave me platform at various national forums, including the prestigious training programs of the officers. So I thank both of my senior learned professionals, because I believe wherever I stand today in indirect tax, you all both have contributed a big part in that. So thank you very much. And I also thank my institute for always giving me an opportunity to add to the vast ocean of knowledge and resources whatever institute has, to whatever small bit I can contribute. So with this, I would like to take you all through to our today's topic. As RK sir had mentioned at the start, this topic is something very intricate. This topic is something which has lot of litigations right from day one. Today, as you can see the heading, we are going to look at this topic. Perspective is the recent development, but along with it, the practical insights. So the topic is intermediary services under the GST law. I have crafted my entire deliberation into 4 parts. First part being the legislative backdrop as to how this concept of intermediary, which we are seeing today as on today's date with the latest amendment happening by the Finance Act 2026, but what is the entire legislative background? Second is the concept from where the core issues in litigation have started as to what exactly is intermediary, when it comes to concept, what exactly is the definition and how this definition has created a lot of practical and legal chaos. Then comes some deep insight into the past and present legal provisions. Though we say that there is an amendment, recent amendment, but does it means that all past cases will be put to hold? I believe no. As it happens with all other legislation amendments, especially in taxation, that whenever an amendment is done, it does not necessarily puts an end to all the past disputes, but it is just a pass through to the starting of something new, a new era of interpretations, misinterpretations, and disputes. And then towards the end, I would like to draw your attention to some important pressing challenges, both from the practical perspective and the litigation perspective, which has come up as on the date, specifically because of the latest brought in amendment. So with this background, let me start with the first chapter of today's deliberation. So we are going to see the legislative backdrop as to how this concept of intermediary has evolved right from the service tax era, from where it started, to the present GST era and amended by the latest Finance Act 2026. So here I have tried to create a timeline which I would like to briefly touch upon, and some of these things we are going to discuss in detail in the entire deliberation today. So first, if you recall the service tax era can be divided into two parts: the pre-2012 part and the post 1st July 2012 part. What is the difference? The 1st July 2012 saw the embark of the negative regime in the service tax. Prior to that, we were under the selective approach, where only specified services which were defined, which were named in the Finance Act 1994, which is the parent law for service tax, were only taxed up to 30th of June 2012. From 1st July, all services were brought under the net, under the comprehensive approach, which is also called as the negative list regime. Now, interestingly, when the service tax positive regime was there, positive regime means selective regime. In that case, there was no specific concept or definition of intermediary, but what is commonly covered in that, one of the segments are the BPOs, the commission agents, the agents who do the supportive work, or the backend units who do the facilitation work. All these entities, whenever they were providing services to some foreign counterpart, at that time, these services under the pre-negative list regime of service tax were correctly classified as exports, and there was not much a dispute at all. The dispute majorly started from 1st of July 2012 in the service tax era, when we shifted to the negative list regime under the service tax, where a new concept was brought into the service tax law, which was the place of provision of service rules, POPS, which today is equated to the place of supply rules under the GST. In this, for the first time, they defined intermediary and they provided for the place of provision of intermediary services as the location of supplier, which I'm sure you all would be knowing, is also provided under the GST law under section 13(8) of the IGST Act, which has now been omitted by the present Finance Act. Now, this particular point was the starting point of the creation of all the tussle, the chaos, and ultimately the legal battles. So this particular provision brought in the negative list regime of the service tax made exports, which were in principle exports, that is where I am providing services of intermediary to a foreign counterpart, as not exports, only because of the reason that the place of supply or the place of provision of those services as per the deeming fiction fell in India. Since the place of provision, place of supply was India, and I'm sure you all would be recalling the definition of export of service, one of the limbs is that the place of supply should be outside India. Since this condition was not satisfied, hence these services were not fitting in the criteria of export of service, thereby adding to the cost of these Indian service providers. And as you all know that India has developed, has come a long way as a service sector entity, a service sector providing country. But if our own foreign services or export services are being taxed, that is adding a burden, that is making our service providers uncompetitive when it comes to competing with our counterparts sitting outside India. Now, this particular point was further aggravated when the GST law was introduced, because people were expecting that in the GST law, this particular anomaly would be removed, this deeming fiction would be removed, and they will bring it in lines with the international principles. However, the section 13(8) which replaced the earlier place of provision rules of service tax, actually replicated it, and the same provision of it being location of supplier as the place of supply continued, thereby disentitling the exporter of services even under the GST regime from the benefit of exports. However, immediately after the GST introduction, in the 139 report, there was a recommendation made by the Parliamentary Standing Committee to remove 13(8) provisions and make it at par with international legal provisions, that is making it recipient based rather than supplier based. However, this recommendation was ignored at that time, and after 9 years, today it has been implemented from this Finance Act 2026. Thereafter, in GST, we had a circular, the very first circular, trying to explain intermediary, but more than explaining, it created more disputes, and hence it had to be withdrawn immediately ab initio. Thereafter, we had the famous and a very conflicting judgment by the Honorable Bombay High Court Division Bench, where both the Honorable Justice had a split verdict, a virtual 180-degree opposite verdict, and then it was finally decided by the CJI of the Honorable Bombay High Court. In between, we had another circular, again trying to explain what could be intermediary, how to classify intermediary, which is the major litigative point. Thereafter, previous year, as we saw, we had the 56th GST Council meeting bringing about a sea change in the GST law, also termed as GST 2.0. In that, this particular anomaly was finally being addressed, and it was being rectified, corrected, and brought to the international tax positions. So 13(8)(b), which is the place of supply provision for intermediary under the GST law, was proposed to be removed, and which was finally removed by the Finance Act 2026. So this is the entire journey of intermediary. Now, even though this place of supply rule has been omitted, but still the pending matters under the service tax and now under the GST law pertaining to intermediary are still persisting. And that is where we need to equip ourselves with the complete in-depth knowledge and understanding of the concept of intermediary. So let us start. So as we discuss, in the pre-negative regime of service tax, the services provided by Indian parties to foreigners were being classified as export as per the old provisions of Export of Service Rules 2005 and Taxation of Service Rules 2006, both governing the cross-border service tax provisions, provided and created a favorable taxation scenario by classifying all these services provided by Indian parties to foreign counterparts as exports. However, post the introduction of the negative regime, the concept of service of intermediary was specially brought in, and these services initially, when you see 1st July 2012, only covered commission agents for services, that is agents who were engaged in providing or facilitating provision of service. Later on, they found that this was a mistake, so they corrected it immediately on 1st October 2014, bringing an amendment in the definition of intermediary to also cover commission agent for goods. So effectively, this should have been from the day one, but since it was a service tax law, maybe while drafting the definition, they forgot that there would be commission agent for goods also. They only envisaged commission agent for services. So originally, intermediary covered commission agents for services only. Thereafter, commission agents for goods was also included, but the bottom line remained the same, that the place of provision rules under 9C provided that the place of provision for intermediary services would be location of service provider. Now understand this scenario. So the scenario is, let us say I'm acting as an intermediary for a foreign manufacturer. So a foreign manufacturer, let us say a perfume manufacturer from France, wishes to develop a market in India. And I'm providing the facilitation service, I'm providing the intermediary service. And in this intermediary services, I'm a person from India providing service to a recipient who is sitting outside India. This particular service was considered not as an export service because of the specific introduction of this concept of place of provision rules, which is equal to our place of supply provisions today under the GST law. And this particular rule provided that for intermediary services, the place of provision would be the location of the supplier. So if I, the intermediary sitting in India, providing a service to a person in France, a manufacturer of perfume in France, my services, though otherwise is an export service in the normal common parlance. However, because of this specific place of supply provision, I did not get the benefit of export. And that was the biggest challenge created. Importantly, this particular concept was a deviation from our destination-based principle, which we had borrowed from the EU VAT framework. And this is where somehow we were not aligning with the international provisions. Now, when I tried to research why we deviated from the international provisions, whereas otherwise, while creating our entire service tax provision and service tax law, we followed the international provisions for services and international provisions for international transaction. Then why specifically over here in case of intermediary services, we deviated? So I found answer in one of the articles which I was reading. The article said that this was a specific request made by our Indian traders. Why this was a specific request made by the Indian traders? Because according to them, there was no benefit of setting off of service tax against their sales tax, because as you all know, before the introduction of GST, sales tax, which was VAT, and service tax were not interchangeably fungible. That is, you could not set it off. So whenever they were importing any service from a person sitting outside India, which was most of the cases, see, we are talking about 1994, 1996, where India providing services to outsider was less a scenario. It was the other way around, where our people were trying to export their goods outside India and they were taking help of some foreign intermediary. So if I am, let us say, a manufacturer of a particular machinery, or now I hail from a city of Nashik, which is the export garden of grapes. So we are the major exporters of grapes from India. Now, for a person like me, let us say I'm a trader in grapes. If I want to export grapes to various parts of Europe, and I'm trying to avail the services of an agent and intermediary sitting over there who helps me arrange and facilitate my transaction of export of grapes. Now, in this case, when I was taking their services, if we had aligned our intermediary provisions with the international jurisprudence, what would have happened? It would have become an import of service for me, because the place of supply would have been the place of recipient, and the supplier is sitting outside, recipient is sitting inside, would have been an import of service. And being a trader, I would have been compelled to take a registration of service tax, pay service tax under RCM, and I would on the top of it not get a credit of it. To avoid this, the Indian exporters who are availing services of foreign intermediaries, they requested the government to make a provision in such a fashion that whenever they are availing services of foreign intermediary, they do not have to pay tax, that is the service tax in India under RCM. And that is where this article said that the government, honoring their request, brought in this particular provision. As you can see, the commission agent for goods was added later. So the purpose was this only, that they wanted to give relief to commission agents for goods, because we were exporting our agricultural produce and different articles, textile articles, leather articles, spices, and we were doing it by taking services of foreign intermediaries. Now, while drafting this, maybe the government did not envisage that in coming future, the situation would be reversed, where we would be acting as Indian intermediaries for various foreign counterparts. And then after that, the IT boom happened and India became an IT hub. All these was not envisaged at that time. And that is where I believe they missed this particular they did not envisage this, and that is why they missed this particular point, that tomorrow when we will become the exporter of intermediary services, our Indian exporters, that is the service providers, would have a opposite scenario to face, whereby we will be liable to pay service tax at that time. Today GST, that also at 18%. Today at that time it was 12%, 14%, and it would directly be a cost to us, which will make our export to foreigners uncompetitive, export of intermediary services. So this could be the reason, or this was the only thing which I could find in my research, that why the government deviated from the well-established destination-based principle when they were crafting the place of provision for the intermediary. Then came the GST law, and as we all know, in the GST, again we repeated the same provision here. I believe by this time, India had grown as a major service hub, plus India was also a backend IT hub. Plus nowadays, we are also becoming the backend support system. Like today, we are all talking about accounting outsourcing. We are talking about knowledge process outsourcing. So today we have become a major backend for many countries and many big companies, foreign companies and MNCs. Now, this is what is the challenge, which I expected would be resolved at least when the GST was introduced, because by this time we had gained a lot of market share in export of services, especially all these which I just named. And secondly, by this time, that is, I'm talking about 2016-17, when the GST law was being drafted and it finally found the shape. I believe by that time, all the major litigations in intermediary of service tax had already surfaced. So I believed, I was expecting that when the GST law would be introduced, this particular problem would be resolved. But somehow, even at that time, our lawmakers felt it in their wisdom correct to continue the same place of supply provisions in the GST law, treating the location of supplier as the place of supply, and creating the same problem that export of intermediary service would no more be eligible for export benefits. And immediately after the introduction of GST, this 139 report on the impact of GST had also recommended that this will be creating a huge problem for our Indian exporter of services, but somehow we did not find ears to this, and it got prolonged till the 56 GST Council meeting, which ultimately culminated into the amendment brought through the Finance Act, effective from 30th of March 2026. So this is the entire legal backdrop. Mansi, if anybody has any particular queries on this, on the entire intermediary journey, I would be happy to answer before I take up the second chapter.
Not any particular query, but a generic one.
Yeah.
Like just a brief, if you could tell everyone which services are included in intermediary services.
Sorry,
Which services
that we are coming to. That will come in this concept part. So
Okay.
right now I was only on the historical development of the entire service tax journey to GST. Now I'll come to the concept where we are going to discuss in depth what exactly is intermediary, what will be covered, what will not be covered, and why there is till date a huge litigation on this. Other than this, there is no question, Mansi?
No question related to this, sir.
Perfect then. Perfect then. Now, as I have given a footnote to this particular chapter itself, so now we are in the concept, the meaning, the definition of intermediary. So the concept of intermediary has emerged as one of the most biggest critical areas of tax litigation. Now, why is this litigation? The litigation is all only because of reason one. You have created a special place of supply provisions for intermediary, because of which it is not becoming export, and hence because of that it becomes important to understand what is and what is not intermediary. Now the basic distinction, the basic conflict, as what even RK sir was addressing in his opening remarks, is a very thin line of difference. Now I'll try to first explain in generic words before I go take you to the legal technical provisions. See, I'll give you a very simple raw example to explain you what is intermediary and what is not intermediary. So Mansi, I hope you'll help me. So I'll be putting some questions and you have to just try to respond me. And if there are responses from the participants, you can put it across to me.
Okay.
Now, let us say I'm sitting in Mumbai. I get a work which has to be executed in Nagpur where Mansi is there. So let us say it is a statutory audit, it is a bank audit, and it is very common. Now, first option is I travel to Nagpur, which I find unfeasible. Instead, since I know Mansi very well, I'm very well versed of her expertise in this particular domain. So I contact Mansi and I ask Mansi, ki, see Mansi, I have to execute this particular work, this stock audit, this bank audit, this inventory audit. I want you to take care of this particular audit. So I take Mansi as my support. So let us say she becomes my support in executing this service, which has to be performed in Nagpur. Now, let us say I am getting a fees of 5 lakhs. Between me and Mansi, we have contracted that I'll be giving her fees of 3.5 lakhs. Now, in this particular case, you have to first understand that there are three parties, which is the first core requirement before we can enter into the dispute of intermediary. One is the principal supplier, which is me. Then there is a principal recipient, which is the bank for whom I am doing this particular service or who has engaged me. And then there is a third person who is Mansi in this example, who would be actually going and executing the services on my behalf. Now, in this particular case, now this is, see, I'm taking a very simple, our day-to-day real life example, and this will be very much connecting to you because in today's scenario, we are doing this day in, day out for multiple locations where we are not physically present. Now, in this particular case, between me and the bank, what is the nature of service? The nature of service is professional service, auditing service, and we apply our regular SAC code of what we apply for CA services. Now, the main disputing point is the services which are rendered by Mansi. Now, when Mansi is rendering the service to me, what is the nature of this service? Is this an intermediary service? Or is this a service between me and Mansi on principal to principal? This is one of the key determining factor. Point number one. There are three more points, but this is the one which I can explain even without going to the definition. So first you have to understand that when we are talking about the dispute about what is and what is not intermediary, because that is the whole crux of today's session, Baki provisions, amendments are okay. The main point is you have to understand what are the different limbs and what are the requirements. So first basic requirement is there are three persons: principal supplier, principal recipient, and then there is one more third person. Now, the main question is whether this third person, in my example, it is Mansi, whether this is intermediary. This is situation one. I'll give you another situation, trying to just modify this example. Now, what is this second example? Second example is where Mansi is my own associate in Nagpur. So let us say I have already have some understanding. Let us say if I'm talking about company's perspective, let us say I'm a private limited company or a public limited company. Mansi is my subsidiary and she is my support arm. So whatever work I am getting, many of my work is being executed by Mansi's team only. Now, this is again a common feature even in our CA profession and in varied service sector, especially like the IT services, all these TCS and all, they have this particular concept that they have a front face, which is the TCS, but for execution, they may have their own team sitting somewhere else, or they may have subcontracted it, hired it, or connected it with someone. So there are two models in which I am getting my work executed through someone. Now, the question is whether this person, in my example, Mansi, in first case, I had subcontracted it. In second case, she is my own extended arm, my own branch, my own subsidiary who is going to do the execution work, whether she is treated as intermediary? Mansi, what do you think? Even though you don't know the concept of intermediary, but just a starting point, because it is very important to clear our minds with the basics. So what do you think? Because see, I have written one line below. Just read this line. The distinction is whether it is a direct service provision or it is an intermediary service provision. This carries the significant implication. Okay, we'll park this question. You may not answer to me right now because you don't know anything in intermediary. That is very okay. Let us try to now visit the definition of intermediary. So these are the two principal factors which distinguishes an intermediary with a non-intermediary. Supply and own account and principal to principal. Now this is what we'll try to understand. So let me first take you to the definition. So as I said, firstly, it was introduced in the service tax negative list regime when they introduced the place of provision of service rules. So this is the definition which was carved out in the service tax era. Now you'll see a part which is highlighted by me in red. This is for the intermediary or the commission agent relating to supply of goods. So this was not there originally. They added it later on from 1st of October. And then when you see the definition of GST, if you compare both the definitions, they are virtually the same. So it will make no difference whether you read the service tax era definition or the GST era definition. Yes, there are cosmetic changes. Over there, it was provision of service. Here it is supply. That is the only difference. I am taking you to the GST era definition. So even though we will be discussing cases relating to service tax era also, but the analogy remains same because the definition is same. Now, Mansi, let us try to decode what is intermediary, because somebody had asked this, what exactly is covered in intermediary. I gave you two real life scenarios and more relating to us because I purposely to cover CA field example so that it is more connecting. Now, keeping my example at the back of the mind and now reading the definition, you have to tell me what is your first impression that whether you are a subsidiary intermediary in both these scenarios. So what is the definition? Intermediary is a broker agent. But I'll tell you, I'll request you not to be guided by these two words, because then there is a generic word which says or any other person. Now it is very important to note the principle of interpretation of statute. One of the principle is injustum generis, which says that when you have a generic word which is being preceded by specific words, the generic word will take the color from the specific word. So when they are saying any other person, they mean to say someone who is still in the character of your now what can I use the word? Like here they have used the word broker or agent, or I'll say who is below you. Let me use this word. So who is subsidiary to you? Subsidiary not in the sense of company, but who is below you, right? Now comes the most important part, by whatever name called. Now this is very common with all taxation laws. The terminology that you give to anything is immaterial. It is always the essence. Now what is the essence? This is the key point, Mansi. When you will be treated as an intermediary, or who will be treated as an intermediary, who is subsidiary to you firstly, and what is the role, what is the essence of this particular person? The essence is the person is supporting you in what manner? It is arranging or facilitating the supply, full stop. You may not read anything else. So when this person, your support, your subsidiary, is playing the role of a person who will be doing what? What is the main essence? Who will be arranging the supply. Now, what do you understand, Mansi, from this term, arranging a supply?
To make two parties meet the principal, the supplier and the recipient.
If I have to give you a very generic example, it is shadi.com, right?
Right.
See, what is the role of shadi.com? Arranging. And as you were also saying the same thing, your role is limited only to helping two people meet, two people connect, so that the supply can happen. So what is the first role of a person who will be treated as a subsidiary, who is a junior part and who is arranging the supply between two or more persons? So already there are two or more persons. Who are these two persons? Principal supplier and principal recipient. And then there is this third person. This third person will be intermediary if one, the role of this third person is only helping these persons meet so that between them they can do a supply. Till this word, there is no problem. The problem starts when you go to the other word. So there is one more role given to intermediary. Who is intermediary? The other role to intermediary is the one who facilitates the supply. between two or more person. Now, this word facilitate has created all the confusion, and I believe all the disputes are coming because of the word facilitate. Because when you say arrange, now it is very simple. Like it is how you want to buy a house. What you will do, you will look out for an agent. What the agent will do, he will simply locate 2-3 properties for you as per your requirements. He will take you to those premises. He will give you all the details. And once you are okay with one or two of the options, then the person will help the supply happen. So whatever are your challenges, whatever are the seller's challenges, he will try to mediate and he will try to remove all the obstacles. And finally, the transaction happens. This is the first role of intermediary, which is arranging a supply. The second role is what is creating a question, a challenge, what is facilitating a supply. Now, this is where all the litigation has started, because department has interpreted facilitating as your role, which you were doing in my previous two examples. What were you doing? You were facilitating in executing that supply. Are you understanding this?
Right, yes.
First was arranging. Were you arranging? No.
No.
When arranging will come, let us say there is a person who has to file a writ. Now, see, I'll give you an example of arranging also in our field. There is a person who has to file a writ, or let us say it is your own client. You tell the client, see, I am not into writ practice, but I know one person, Vishal Podar, his firm is into writs. So I will connect you to him and you can file a writ through him. Now, in this particular case, you have stepped out of the transaction. You're not doing the transaction yourself, correct?
Right.
You have stepped out of the transaction. You have only helped your client or that particular person meet me, and the supply happened. In this case, your role will definitely be the role of intermediary. Why? Because you have arranged the supply. You agree?
Yes.
But in the example which I gave at the start, before I came to the definition, that is where you have helped in executing the work, either as my own subsidiary, my own branch, or as an outsider whom I have subcontracted or subdelegated my work, which is very common in our CA profession, that if I'm sitting in one geographical location and I get work of some other, I connect with a person over there and I take the services of that person. Now, this is where the department right from day one is interpreting you also as intermediary, because you are facilitating the supply. But if you try to understand the meaning of this, and if you try to link it with the first part, now here I pay more thrust to the first part. Are you acting as my broker or as my agent or as any similar person? Answer is no.
No.
Not at all. You are not acting as my broker or agent. So if I have got a bank audit or if I have got a stock audit and I've asked you to execute it, have you acted as my agent or broker in this transaction? Answer is no. In fact, we have acted on principal to principal basis. I have hired you, like how the client hired me, I hired you. Simple. That does not make you a person who will fit in the capacity of broker, agent, or any such person. Secondly, even if you are my own extended arm, like my own branch, my own subsidiary, still, if I get my work executed by my own subsidiary, will my subsidiary will be playing the role of a broker, agent? No. You are in fact the actual executor of the work. But somehow the department has been treating this. So wherever you are actually, now see where the confusion is, where you are involved in some portion of the execution of the work, they are considering you as intermediary. Whereas I call it as, in our layman's language, subcontracting. So client approached me where I am the service provider and the person is the client. I approached you where you become the service provider, I become the client. And we are playing the role on principal to principal basis. Nobody is subsidiary to anyone. But this is where the entire crux of the dispute is. Now we come further. Now, interestingly, the definition has the second limb also. It further clarifies. So first part is what? Intermediary is a broker, agent, by whatever name called, who arranges, facilitates the supply between two or more persons. This is done. And it further says, but does not include a person who supplies the goods or services or both on his own account. Now, what is this on his own account? It is a trader. Now, what is the example of trader? Let us say you have got a contract to supply 1,000 mobile handsets. You will be procuring those handsets from me because I am a distributor. When you will be procuring these handsets from me, will you be playing the role of an agent? Now, this depends upon whether you are going to first buy it and then sell it in your own name, or you are only again going to just make me and that person connect. If you are only going to make me and that person connect and take your commission, it will definitely be agent. It will definitely be an intermediary. But if you supply on your own account, now what is on his own account or on your own account? It means you have first purchased the mobile handsets from me, and now you will be selling it in your name. So when you are selling it further in your name, there's no doubt at all you are playing the role of a trader. This is what is the second part. What is on his own account? Now, interestingly, Mansi, I have a very interesting question to you and everyone. Now, I gave example of trading for goods. Is trading for services possible? Is trading for services possible? I will even ask the participants, and Mansi can also tell me what the participants feel on this. And you can also give your view first.
Trading of services, I don't think so is possible because
Okay.
you cannot buy a service first and then sell it to someone else.
Why? Because it cannot be stored. Okay.
Stored, or but it could be also in the form of a package, like service package, like if we say software services, for example. If you buy from some from
Let us not get into software because Mansi, then that will open up a new dispute
okay.
whether it is goods or service.
Okay.
What you are saying about package software and all, let us not get
That,
into that because that
right.
will be a new dispute then.
Right.
I'll give you the example. Any inputs from the participants?
No.
No, acha. So even participants are thinking. I thought this by now people would be well versed with this concept of trading of service. I'll give you an example. What does this Make My Trip do? Is Make My Trip owning any hotel of itself? Not a single hotel, right? Now, interestingly, when this Make My Trip and these similar concepts started, they started with the model of playing the role only of a platform where they will be hosting the different options. So if you want to travel to Bangalore, what are the different options in Bangalore? And you can visit their website, you can select the option, book from there, and then they will get some commission for helping you booking. But slowly and steadily, some of these have stepped into a new role, the new role of a trader, trader of hotel accommodation service. How? How? That should be the question, right? The answer is I purchase 1,000 nights in your hotel. You understand this concept now? Purchasing 1,000 nights because the billing is per room per night. So I purchase 1,000 nights at upfront at the start of the year. And since you as a hotelier are getting a booking of 1,000 nights ready-made, you are giving me at rack rate price. So maybe your normal price would be 6,000 per night on average price. You are giving it to me at 3,500. Now what I've done, I have purchased, which means what? Whether or not I get a customer, I will be paying you for 1,000 nights at the rate of 3,500. Fine. Now what I do is, I have my algorithm of past so many years because earlier I started with the model of platform where I kept on collecting the data as to in which season, which period, which month, which days, which dates there is a high traffic and which dates it is very low. Now I'm using my algorithm data to publish the price as 10,000 on certain dates, as 4,000 on certain dates, at even 2,000 on certain dates below my costs. But that is my business model. Now, what will you call this business model as? I call it as trading of service. See, maybe again, it can be a dispute for someone case where trading is not possible. You cannot. So maybe not going by the literal meaning of it, but the essence is what I have booked these services. Book means what? I have to now pay for it. And you will not question me if I send anybody to enjoy that room. You have no questions because you are not getting the customer. I am getting the customer. Now, this is where this question of on own account will come. So I call this as trading, right? So this is, I think, will give you all, everyone, a starter of what is intermediary. So basically, intermediary is one who is acting like your agent, not on principal to principal basis, and who is helping you arrange the supply or helping you facilitate the supply, that is complete the supply. But most important point along with this is first limb, that the person should be not principal to principal, it should be a principal to agent. And then the second part clarifies further that it will further not include the person who is doing the supply on his or her own account, like a trader. Right? Now with this, let me take you to the different issues and how the jurisprudence has evolved. Now, what are the important implications or inferences that you can draw from this concept of intermediary? So first, as I said, there has to be three persons. If there are two persons, there can be no intermediary. Now, who are these three persons? As I said, principal supplier, principal buyer, and then this third person whom we have to decide whether or not this third person is intermediary. Now comes the next part. There should be two different services. Now, this is very important. This is where I believe in most of the cases, the department is going wrong. The department is not finding out the second service. See, what are the two services? One is the main supply. What was the main supply? I come back to our original example where I got a bank audit work. I got it executed from you. Now tell me, when you are executing that work, are you giving me a different service or are you giving me the same service, which is the main service? Mansi.
Same service.
Same service.
Yes.
Are there two different services? Answer is no.
No.
So for intermediary, one is the main service, which is the audit. The second should be only the facilitation service, not again the audit service. Now, Mansi, tell me, when you will be billing to me because you have executed the work, what SAC code you are going to use? You are going to use the same SAC code because you have performed the same service.
Right.
You cannot bill to me saying that it was business auxiliary or it was business support. No, you have actually done the same thing. Let us say a second example. I'm into only litigation, but I get a lot of compliance work. Now, what I'm doing presently is I'm bluntly saying, ki, sorry, I'm not into compliance. You may look out for any other eligible candidate for this. But other ways I can do is I can tie up with you and I can say, boss, Mansi, I will be getting so many minimum 500 cases of compliance, which may be return filing, income tax, GST, TDS returns, everything, which you will be executing as my backend. Now, when you are executing that as my backend, firstly, do you become my agent? I don't think so. Secondly, is there a different service which you are doing? In fact, you are doing the main service.
Right.
But what will happen? I will be billing the same thing to the client and you will be billing the same thing to me. Is there a different service? I don't think so, which I believe is the second key requirement, which the department is missing in 90% of the litigation cases. Third, as I already said, you should be a junior person in this. Junior not in terms of age or experience, but junior in terms of the commercial status. In any agreement, when there are two parties, the two parties are always at same level. We call it as principal to principal. But when it becomes something like employer-employee, principal-agent, then it changes the role. We do not say that they are at the same level. You are at a junior level. You are at a lower level commercially. Commercially means in the commercial parlance, you do not stand at the same footing, which we call as principal to principal. Now, this is missing in 90% of these litigation cases because the second limb is not there. This is where I believe the department is committing a huge mistake. Third or fourth point, sorry, not third, is what is again distinguishing intermediary with, in my all examples, if you put yourself, Mansi, you'll find you are fitting in the fourth condition. Are you directly involved in the main supply? Answer is yes. In fact, you are doing the main supply. If you are doing the main supply, it can never be intermediary. You should always be an external person to the main supply. You should not be the part of main supply. See, the moment you all understand these second and fourth point, I believe the entire dispute of intermediary is over. It is always the second and main point, second and fourth point. See, third is also a proper point, but the problem, it is always difficult to understand what is principal to principal and what is principal to agent. It is practically very difficult, right? When you are at par and when you are junior, that is very difficult. So I always say focus on the second and fourth point. Whenever I am litigating any case, I make out the case only on 2 points, second and fourth. I generally do not argue on principle to principle because it is very difficult, because then you have to read out various terms from the contract, give how your contract is principle to principle and how it is not principle to agent. And it is very easy for the other party to counter that, because there could be one clause in my contract which gives me supremacy over you. Now let us say, now taking again the same example, you are just newly qualified. So definitely I'll have some sort of supremacy over you. Maybe I'll be dictating certain terms. I'll be imposing certain terms in the contract whereby effectively I am playing a upper hand. Though in principle, we are principle to principle. So this is where I never fight on this point of principle to principle, though this is one more important point. So, but I'll request everyone that whenever you are litigating, try to establish point 2 and 4, which I believe is more easy to be established. And then comes the last point, are you a trader? So what is own supply? I already gave you example where you are trading in that. So now you're not working as my backend. In fact, you are the trader. You are just taking it from me and giving it further. So if you're a trader of that particular item, again, you cannot be intermediary. So this is outrightly a different thing, being a trader. And the above part, which is the major litigation part, is where I get some part of it done from someone. So what is the present litigation? When we go to different cases, you'll find that I am getting the work executed from someone, either the entire work or some part of the work. Now, again, in our CA practice, it may happen that I am handling the entire work. I may sublet to you some part of it. Let us say I want to fight a case. Today, I want to prepare for one of the appeals or writ. I will hire you only for doing the research work. Kimansi, I want you to do research on intermediary and give me how you will distinguish between an intermediary and non-intermediary on these lines. Give me research, do case laws, find Indian case laws, find foreign case laws and give it to me. Now, when you do this research work for me, again, take this example also. Now, you're not doing the entire work. My first earlier examples were you are doing the entire audit, you are doing the entire written filing. Now, I'm changing the example slightly. You're only doing one part of my work. What is that one part? You are doing the research part. Whether this makes you intermediary?
No.
Simple, see 2 and 4. You need not think, you just see 2 and 4, you'll get the answer. Fifth is outrightly a different category, trading, that is a different. So you're not in trading. You are doing my backend work, but are you doing backend 2 and 3? What is 2? Are there 2 different supplies? Fourth, what is? Are you also involved directly in the main supply? Answer is yes. You are involved directly in the main supply. Research is one part of the main supply. It cannot be intermediary. You are not external to the main supply. You are not only playing the role of a mediator, facilitator, arranger. No, you are part of the main supply. Some part of my work has been delegated. Let us say we call this word delegation, subcontracting. So I've delegated some part of my work to you. You are doing that. It is not intermediary. But again, I tell you, now somebody will say, sir, if it is so easy, why there are so many cases up to Supreme Court? Because of the word arranging. When we'll go to the different real life cases, which will start after this slide, the actual litigation cases, you'll find that what is creating the difference is the word arranging the supply, right? So broadly, there are 2 exceptions in intermediary. That is, 2 scenarios will be outside intermediary. One, where you are a trader, which is supply on own account, and 2, where you are part of the main supply, which is I am calling it as principal to principal. Now let us go to both these points in detail with the help of cases. So what is the first exception? Where the person is doing supply on the own account, I call it as the recipient test, or simply I call it as trading. So where you are doing what? Now see, I have all these things I have tried to simplify from the various jurisprudence that we get from different judgments, right? So what is the crux of this? Where the supply is made by you. Now I'm purposely using the word intermediary because the allegation which is posed by the department on you is that you're intermediary. So I'm using the word intermediary, though you will not be intermediary. So where the supply is made by the intermediary, or the alleged intermediary, representing himself, herself to be the owner, author, proprietor of the good service, and without attaching responsibility of performance on the original owner, he would be said to make the supply on his own account. Simply, Mansi, I've tried to define trading in different words, because otherwise trading will be something very traditional. I don't want to mess with the traditional concept of trading. So what is the point? So where you are giving an impression to your client, boss, I am doing this work. So let us say some opinion note work comes. I'll give you another example. See, some opinion note works comes to you. Now it is on intermediary and you feel ki nahi, I am not yet so much experience in that. So you had attended the session. So you put me a call ki, sir, I want an opinion note from you. I said, okay, I'll do it. Now here there are two possibilities, Mansi. One, you will tell the client that this is opinion note of Vishal Poddar. Two, you will not tell the client, you will tell the client that you are giving the opinion note. Now, if you tell the client you are giving the opinion note, you are fitting in this. What happens? You are taking the responsibility of performance. You are representing yourself to be the owner, the author, the proprietor of the goods or service. Please understand. See, I am purposefully taking the examples from our CA field. So you are giving the opinion note, but you are signing it as if you have made the opinion note. Now, in this case, what you have done, beta? You have done trading. This is what I call as trading. May not be in the actual sense. You have taken that particular opinion note from me and you have replicated that, maybe by changing slightly some language here or that, or you may simply copy it as it is. But you have put your name. What you did trading, in my words. In the words of law, what you made supply on your own account. Now, when you are making the supply on your own account, where you are representing yourself to be the owner of the good service, the author of the good service, the proprietor of the good service, and you are attaching the entire responsibility on you, not on me, how can you be intermediary? You are the owner of the goods, you are the owner of the service. So you become like a trader, and a trader can never be intermediary. There is a very interesting judgment on this particular aspect of own supply. That is in the case of Microsoft products. So what were you doing? Now you are the respondent. You are this Comparex India Private Limited. So you purchase the software. I think this is what you are giving the example earlier, which I said, let us not get into that dispute. You are saying something about package software only, right? So this is that example. So you purchase the software from Microsoft and thereafter you are selling it to me. How? Either in the same or in some customized conditions. So what you have done? You have purchased some Microsoft product and you are selling it to me. Now again, this is very common. You go to any computer wala shop, they are selling you so many products, not only the hardware, but also the softwares. Now, when they are selling you these softwares, are they playing the role of intermediary? I believe no, they are playing the role of traders. Why? Because see, this is what is important. Goods are supplied on own account. It is not on commission being paid by the Microsoft. What you have done, you have added your margin. It is, in fact, independently sold the license to the overseas customers after purchasing from Microsoft. Agreement specifically mentions that there is no relationship of principal and agent between Microsoft and you. See, one is Microsoft could have kept you as their agent, saying that, ki boss, whatever sales you make, I'll give some percentage commission. I'll give you an example of this also. Today, you get so many calls. Daily, you'll be getting calls, sir, take credit card, madam, take loan, madam, there is pre-approved loan. You get these calls?
Yes.
Now, if you take any of those products, these are all services, na? Even though I'm using the word product, these are all services for which you are getting calls day in, day out. When you are buying that service, the bank who is giving that loan or that credit card or that particular service has kept this caller. Let us say I have put you the call. We call them as telecallers, right? This person on agent basis. I'm sure you know their model.
Yes.
What do they say? They may be having some fixed component that, okay, 25,000 per month, but whatever number of products you are able to sell, per product, some amount, correct?
Right.
And that is why they call you hundreds of time. At any time. In fact, I was annoyed yesterday. Yesterday being a Sunday, a complete holiday in all aspects, I get a call at afternoon 1:30 asking to take a loan of a particular bank. I said, at least before calling, you should see the day and the time at which you are calling. But those people are also helpless. They have to complete their targets or they have to meet their economical standards. So understand this. What is the difference between trading and not trading is this. You are not going to add any margin. In fact, you are already telling the person that these are not my products. It is that bank's credit card. It is that bank's product. This is what is against own account. Own account is very, see, in case of Microsoft, now why this dispute came up? Because the department is arguing that everybody knows this is a Microsoft product, correct? I'm not saying it is my product. I cannot create that software. I cannot create that particular Windows. It is a product of some other company. It may be Apple product, a Microsoft product, a Windows product, but I am selling it on my own account. I am not being kept here by them as their agent. I'm stepping into the shoes of trader, whereby I've taken those products from them and I'm selling it with my own price. And this price I'll vary with from people to people as per my choice. If you would have been agent, you never have the control on the price. Keep this also in mind. These are very technical factors that you can get from the contract, but that will be case specific. But this is how you can distinguish. If I am able to determine my own price, how will I be your agent? In case of agent, what happens? The agent has to follow the price given by the principal. Correct? So whenever any of these telecallers call you, you try to bargain with them. They will never entertain bargain. Why? Because they are not the one who can decide the price. They are intermediaries. They are agent in the true sense. Right? So this is one limb of the issue. That is where you are making the supply on your own account, which I call as the trading. Now we come to the second limb. What is this second limb? Principal to principal, principal to agent. And this is where all the issues relating to arranging or facilitating the supply will come. And here, all those examples which I gave at the start, like I'm executing the entire work through you, I'm executing some part of the work through you, you are doing some part of my work backend. All these type of cases come over here. So this again, I'm taking the same example, service by a CA to client using services of another CA. Now, in this case, a landmark judgment, everybody I'll request, please, when you want to understand the difference that what is arranging a supply, what is facilitating a supply and what is not. I think the best judgment, which is very much relevant to our field, as I'm giving example of our own services that you will get your work done from somebody else, is this EY case. What is this case? Here it was held that where assessee directly provides professional services rather than facilitating or arranging such services between an overseas entity and a third party, the services do not constitute intermediary. Now I've taken the relevant part of the judgment, but I'll just go to the highlighted part just for the benefit of time and I can take more cases. So what is there? There may be services which may entail outsourcing some constituent part to a third party. Just keep my examples in mind. So one is I'm outsourcing your entire service, as was my example ki bhai, I'm not doing compliance work, but I'll take the compliance work and I'll get everything done from you. This is not that case. This is the second case where I'm getting the research part done from you. Correct? So what is it saying? There may be services which may entail outsourcing some part to a third party. What is this some part? The research part. But that would not be constituted as intermediary if the service provider provides services to the recipient on his own account, as opposed to merely putting the third party directly in touch with the service recipient and arranging for the supply. So I'm not putting you directly in contact with the third person. Yes, maybe for all follow-ups, for getting the OTP and all, you'll be calling the client. But whenever you are calling the client, you are always representing me. Now, in this case, there is no intermediary. Between me and client, it is principal to principal. Between you and me, it is principal to principal. Correct? Let us go to another example. Another interesting case. Now here, today we are seeing since past 3-4 years, this is the hot buzz in many of our CA fraternity that today we have outsourcing work. Correct? Many people are now aspiring to take up the accounting outsourcing of Dubai and all these European countries. Now, this particular case is not for accounting outsourcing, but I've given the heading because you can relate it to our day-to-day example. This is relating to what? So in this particular case, the petitioner neither facilitated the provision of service by a third party nor acted as middleman for procuring such service for its affiliate. The petitioner in fact contracted to provide the service and is the principal service provider in the context of service provided by it. What is the service? Bookkeeping, payroll, accounts through the use of cloud technology. Now, why I gave this heading of accounts outsourcing, I hope you'll understand this. So in case of account outsourcing, what is happening? So there is a company who wants to get its account done from somebody outside. Now, what happens in this particular case? This particular person, let us say I am the face. I go and get the work, but I'm not able to execute all the work. I get it executed through you. Now, in this particular case, when I'm getting it executed through you, whether this itself will make me as the intermediary, because I'm not actually executing, you are executing the work, I'm only just getting the work. The answer is no. Why no? Because I have not worked for you. See, one possibility could be I will be working for you. You will appoint me as your, let us say, salesperson, marketing person, asking me to go and meet different person and get work for you. If that is the case, I'll be intermediary. But where people are giving me work, only what I'm doing is I am getting it executed from someone else. That will not make my service as intermediary, right? Coming to a third scenario. Now, this is again a very famous judgment. As you can see, GoDaddy Indian Web Services. Now, what is the issue? Now, see, there is GoDaddy US, which is getting all the work from US clients. Now, what is the client? The US client wants to get a website made. Now, what this GoDaddy US has done, because in US, setting up your own office and your own staff is very costly, because over there, the salary and all is very high. Nowadays, this is very common that they set up a backend office who is their subsidiary, who is their backend office in India or in such smaller countries where the labor is cheap. So what this GoDaddy US has done, it is getting all the work. Work is what? The work is of developing the website. So the work includes domain name registration, web hosting, email services, designing services, sale of on-demand product services, troubleshooting, all this work. Now, all this work is the work of GoDaddy US, which it is getting from different customers. Now, what this GoDaddy US is doing, it is only getting the work and getting it executed from GoDaddy India. Same example. Now, the question is where GoDaddy US is getting the work. Getting means marketing and getting the clients, and then it is getting it executed from GoDaddy US. Whether between GoDaddy US and GoDaddy India, is there intermediary relationship? Answer is no. Please understand that even though GoDaddy US is doing the marketing and getting the work, it is getting the work for its own account. What is own account? GoDaddy US is doing it in its own name. It is representing the customer as if GoDaddy US is going to do the work. Like when a client comes to me and I say, okay, your return will be filed. I'm not telling the client that I'll get it done from a third person like Mansi. I'm saying, boss, it is me who is going to do. Then only the client is going to give the work, because the client has come to me because of my goodwill, my face value. But what I'm doing, since I'm not into compliance, and frankly speaking, Mansi, I am not even don't know what is the present forms 99C. I know the technical part, but not the actual practical filing part, because I've never done it myself. So what I do is I'm just taking the work. I'm maybe marketing and getting the work, but this marketing is not done for you. See, what is the differentiation? Where I will be an agent of you when I will be doing marketing for you. That is, I'll get the work for you. Please understand this. This differentiation is very important. Whether I'm getting the work for you by doing this marketing. No, I am doing the marketing and getting the work for myself, only getting it executed through you. Now, in this particular case, between you and me, you cannot say that simply because I'm arranging the work, I'm getting the work, that is why I become intermediary. No. You are the entire execution part, and I'm only the person who is getting the work. This is very common. See, in fact, in all big CA firms, this is very common that their partner is only playing the role of getting the work. The execution is done by the backend team. Okay, the backend team is their own employee, so there is no dispute. But let us say the backend team is an outsider. Can you say that all these big CA firms who are doing marketing through various channels, putting stalls in big exhibitions and all, why they are putting the stall? To get the work, and then they can get it executed from anyone. But the most important point is, when they are getting the work, they are getting the work in their own name. When I will become an intermediary, when I'll go and market and get the work for you directly. So when I'm marketing for Mansi and getting the work for Mansi, for which Mansi is going to pay me some commission, then maybe you can call me as intermediary. But when I'm getting the work in my name, only getting it executed through you, it will not be intermediary. Another scenario. Now, this is again a very common point. What heading I have given? Holding subsidiary relationship. Many times, all these big foreign companies, they set up their subsidiaries in India, again for the same reason, because it is cheaper in India, the labor is cheap. Now, when they are getting the work done from their subsidiary in India, again, the litigation is, it is being said that the holding company is actually not the service provider. It is only an intermediary because it is only getting the work, and the entire work is done by the Indian subsidiary. Now, again, it makes no difference who is executing the work. Again, what is the difference, Mansi, as I'm saying? If I'm doing the marketing for you, getting the work for you, then I will become an intermediary. But if I'm doing the marketing and getting work in my name and getting it executed through you, then there is no intermediary. This, Mansi, I hope by now you would be clear, and I'm sure others will also be clear. Now, this is plethora of judgments that have come during service tax era and GST era relating to this one single point, that is principal to principal and principal to agent. So if I have to conclude this point, my conclusion is simple. The conclusion is that when it will be said that a person is intermediary, when the person is doing marketing for somebody else, but when the person is getting the work in their own name, when the person is taking all the responsibility, representing himself or herself as the main person, then it will not be an intermediary. I'll give you another very common example. Nowadays, in case of foreign education, I'm sure, Mansi, you would have seen that in many cities, now it has even come to 2 tier and 3 tier cities. Earlier, it was only in tier 1 cities, that there is this particular person like Akash Study Abroad, a common name. What is this Akash Study Abroad doing? You go to Akash Study Abroad. Akash Study Abroad will do your counseling. It will understand what is your need, by whether you want to study MBBS, whether you want to do engineering, whether you want to do any special law course. And then, considering your budget and your requirement, Akash will get you admitted to a foreign university. Now, in this particular case, this particular Akash Study Abroad, what it is doing, it is going to get some money, right, for doing this. Now, whether this Akash is acting as an intermediary for that foreign university or not, this is again a very common disputed question. Now, what is the difference, Mansi? See, in earlier service tax law, there was earlier sales tax or VAT law, there was a very interesting concept. What is the concept? The concept is whether I am doing it as my business or I am doing it for you. Now you'll say, sir, what is the difference? See, the difference is, when you come to me, it is my business. What is my business? Consulting. I'm going to charge fees to you. Who are you? You are the parent, you are the child who wants to take admission. Now you want to do MBBS. You're not getting a seat in India. Now what I will do, I will understand your requirements and I'll understand what is your field where you want to go within MBBS, further what specialization you want to do. And then I will identify whether I should send you to Russia or Ukraine or Bangladesh or which country. Even people go to African countries for doing these courses because over there the education is much cheaper than doing it in India. Now what I do is, it is my business of doing consulting. And in doing this, I'm charging fees to you and I'm getting you placed in some foreign university. I'm not doing this for the foreign university. I am not an intermediary. But the other way could be, foreign university has appointed me here and they are asking me to do marketing and get them students. So what I do, I go to different colleges, I conduct seminars, and in that seminar, I'm only talking about that one foreign university, that Russian foreign university, and I'm asking you to take admission only there. So whoever comes to me, I am doing exclusively marketing for that one Russian university. Then maybe the scenario is different. Then I'm not doing my own business. I'm doing it for them. So when I'm doing it for them, I become an intermediary. But where it is my own business to guide you, to consult you so that you can get proper higher education in proper university outside India, I may be placing you anywhere as per your requirement, as per your budget, as per the specifications that you have given me. That is my business. In that particular case, I will not be acting as intermediary. Now, this is what even RK sir had said, that it is a thin line of difference. Again, I'll conclude it saying whether I'm doing it for myself or whether I'm doing it for you. Where I'm doing it for you, I become intermediary. Where I'm doing it for myself, even though the work will be executed by you, I am not the intermediary. So one is the trading concept, and one is this concept where I'm doing it on my own account for myself, right? Okay. Now moving further, Mansi. Acha, are there any questions?
Yeah, I'm just going through them actually.
Now there would be questions.
Yeah, there was one main question regarding to tell us the difference between marketing service and intermediary service with an example. I think it's very well clear,
Marketing
clarified.
service and
Intermediary services.
see again. I'll try to clarify it again. See, where I am a marketing agency, like I'll give you a simple example. So I'll give you today's relevant example. Today we have someone called as influencers, right? Now, what do influencers do? They are marketing people. They create their whole, what is that called? Subscriber base by regularly posting something, doing different creative work, and they get famous. Now, different companies come to them, ask them to do marketing for their product, right? So, in one of their podcasts, in one of their reels, they either wear the t-shirt of that company, they wear the hat of that particular brand, or they actually do some marketing of that brand by saying a name of that particular brand during their podcast. Now tell me, I'll give you, means I've already given you the key. What is the key? Whether this, what I'm doing is for myself or I'm doing it for that company. Tell me.
For that company.
No, it is my own business. Why? Who am I? I am the influencer. Please understand. What is the difference, Mansi? And now compare it with that telecaller who called you. What is the difference between a telecaller and an influencer? Both are doing marketing. What is the difference? Influencer has created its own brand.
Got it.
Correct. Now, see, we have so many learned chartered accountants also, and I'm so happy to see them that chartered accountants are today in every field. So, I've seen so many chartered accountant podcasts. They are so knowledge filled. Excellent. Now, let us say I'm taking podcasts regularly. I'm taking different lectures regularly. And now take this example. This is very common. Let us say some software company comes to me, Zoho comes to me and say that, sir, since you're taking on GST, you do just one thing, you put a banner behind you of Zoho. Or maybe in your entire this, let us say in this today's session of intermediary service, you just mention my name Zoho, like in one of my sentences, I should use the name Zoho. This is very common.
Right.
You have seen this. Now tell me, what I'm doing, is it for myself or is it for Zoho?
It's for you.
For
It's your
myself.
brand. It's your brand.
I'm doing it for myself. Myself means this is what is my main business and profession. Influencing people by creating different contents. Now, when I'm a content creator and in that content creation, I do marketing for someone, I'm not an intermediary. This is on my own account.
Right.
But where I'm a telecaller or where, let us say, a marketing company has hired me, a company, a manufacturer has hired me and asked me to do entire podcast for them, everything for them, and only talking about them, it means I'm exclusively getting work for them. I'm doing it for them. I hope you are getting the difference. So like where I'm doing my own work and in that I'm marketing you, then I'm not intermediary. But when I'm doing the entire thing for marketing, then I'm intermediary. Again, this is a very thin line of difference, but I think with this example of influencer and a telecaller, you'll get the difference. So influencers are, according to me, not intermediaries, though they are also doing marketing. But see the difference. They are themselves doing it. Companies are coming to them saying, "Ki, you market for me."
Mm.
I'm nobody's agent. See, I sign a contract with them, which is a principal to principal contract. I'm no below them. In fact, maybe they may be below them because I may be a very bigger brand.
Mm.
Are you getting this? See, there are so
Yes.
many influencers today. They are having millions of subscribers, and companies come to them. In fact, mainly these startups. How these startups flourish? They take up some influencer. Understand this? That influencer is not an intermediary, according to me.
The key difference is that the influencers are doing on their own account.
This is what I'm saying. Exactly. That is their own business. That is what is own account. In fact, that is what is also the law is saying.
Right.
Yes. Any other question, Mansi?
Yes. There's one question with the example. So should I simplify it,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
I should
please.
like there's a question where an Indian entity acts as an agent for a foreign company and
Hmm.
earns an agency fee, including transactions involving its own subsidiary. Whether this would qualify as intermediary services and whether GST would be applicable on the such fee.
Now, see, the question is very generic. Why? Because they have in the first line said that they are acting as an agent for the foreign company, right? Now, the moment you say this, I think no discussion will be left because you are at the upfront saying it is agent. But I
Hmm.
think they have also simplified the query. See, in case of intermediary, I strongly believe that you have to go to the fine prints of the agreement. Like here in influencer case only, I think now you would have got the difference.
Hmm. Right.
Because on appearance wise, it is marketing only.
Hmm.
But will you call the influencer their agent? No.
No.
That is what is the key. So when I'm doing anything for the other person, again the same point, whether it is on my own account or it is as their agent, and this can be understood only from the contract. But if they are saying in the first line that they are acting as an agent, then I think we cannot deliberate more on that.
Someone has requested to explain the effect of whether the service is intermediary or not, whether the service is an intermediation or not, GST at 18% will be charged.
Okay,
On
I think what I'm getting the question, ki why there is so much hue and cry on intermediary. The
Hmm.
reason is, see, dear members, intermediary is creating problem only when the supplier is from India and recipient is from outside. That is the intermediary is Indian intermediary and the other party, the recipient is a foreign person. Why this is creating problem? Because in the service tax era, which continued even in the GST era, and now it finally got resolved on this 30th of March after the passage of Finance Act 2026. The problem was the place of supply provisions. The place of supply said that, see, I am the supplier. So the intermediary person is the supplier. You are the recipient who has hired me for doing this particular service, which is we are calling as intermediary service. Now, when I'm doing this service, in this particular case, the problem is the place of supply of this service, even under the erstwhile service tax law and the present GST law up to 30th of March, is India. Now, since the place of supply is India, the place of provision of services in India, my service to you is not becoming export of service as per the definition of export. And since it is not becoming export of service, hence the problem is that I have to charge GST service tax on that, which in GST it is 18%, in service tax it was 14, 12, 15% at different points of time, different rates. Now the problem is, you being a foreign party, you are not interested in paying Indian taxes. Why? Because you're not going to get any credit in your country. So why will you pay? Now, what I will do then, I have to pay it out of my pocket. So I will have to incorporate it in my cost. So automatically my price increases, or I bear that burden of 18%, which may not be even a good profit margin for me. So eventually, either I close down my business because I'm paying it out of my pocket, so it is not making my business profitable, or if I add it in my margin, you are finding my backend service is more costlier than the backend service from a person sitting in Bangladesh or China or any other country where this particular provision is not there. And hence you'll prefer taking their backend service than my backend service. This is where, Mansi, the whole issue is. I think this is what is the intent of the question.
Okay, so there's one more example or a query regarding that influencer thing. For
Okay.
example, like the actors advertise, like we get a 10-second advertisement on a television. So, like one of the participants has said, like Shah Rukh Khan promoting Jaguar fittings. So, whether it would be intermediary because
Answer is no.
the entire he is an influencer, of course, but the entire advertisement is for
Exactly.
that company.
But again, understand one
Mhm.
thing. See, is Shah Rukh Khan working for them, or are the company interested in taking Shah Rukh Khan?
Companies
Who
interest.
is, yes. So that is what is the point. Is Shah Rukh Khan subordinate to them? Answer is no.
No.
When he's signing that particular advertisement contract, is it a principal to principal contract?
Yes.
Answer is yes. See, agency is something much, much different than this. In all these examples, even though now I understood why this question came up, because when I was explaining the influencer part, I said that they are not doing it exclusively for them.
Mhm.
But many times what happens, an influencer is creating one of the podcasts exclusively for them. But
Mhm.
out of hundreds of podcasts, this is one podcast which the influencer had created. And that is again where the company has contacted the influencer ki boss, you do the marketing. What is the difference, Mansi, again, in this ad example or in this influencer example? I am not doing it for you. In other sense, means obviously the ad is for your company. You had come to me because I am a brand. You have come to me because I'm a celebrity. You have come to me because I'm an influencer. You want to take my brand to your benefit. Understand this difference. So I'm not working under you. Whenever any contract is signed with an influencer or with this celebrity for promoting any product, etc., it is always on principle to principle basis. There, the first part of the point comes. Here it is not the second part, that is on own account. We are not disputing. Here we are disputing on the first part. Are you acting as an agent? Are you acting as a subsidiary of that person? Answer is no. In fact, because I am a brand, I am a celebrity, I'm an influencer, you want me to be part of your ad campaign so that you get promoted. See the difference. I'm more superior in that example.
Mhm.
Correct, na? You
Yes.
could have gone to any other person and got it done from an average actor. Why you came to Shah Rukh Khan? Because you know that if Shah Rukh Khan holds a product, immediately crore pieces will get sold immediately, whatever the product is. Simple, simple. Chalo, we'll proceed because now we are
Yes.
only 20 minutes left. And then maybe if there are any questions, you can screen down the questions and we can take up that.
Yes.
But I'm sure with all this discussion, the layers are getting unfolded much better and people are getting more clarity. Now I'll take you to some provisions. Now there is an exemption in the IGST exemption notification, which is 9/2017 of integrated tax rate. It says that intermediary service. Now it is talking particularly of intermediary service. So here now there is no dispute whether it is intermediary or not. The service is intermediary. But if the location of supplier and recipient of goods both is outside India, it means I am sitting in India, I am providing the intermediary service, but the seller of the goods is also outside and the person who is going to buy the goods is also outside. Now, for such example, where I'm doing intermediary, it is being made exempt, obviously subject to conditions of maintenance of some documents and preserving it for 5 years, etc. Now, this is the main whole point. There is no dispute, dear members. There was no dispute and there is no dispute where the transaction is a domestic transaction. What is a domestic transaction? The intermediary is also India and the person for whom the intermediary is doing this marketing is also India. Why? Because for this, the place of supply provisions are very clear. The place of supply is location of recipient, and whatever GST I'm going to charge you, whether C plus S or I, depending upon the nature of supply, you are going to get credit. So there was never a dispute. The dispute was all in case of international. Why? Before the amendment, that is up to 30th of March 2006, before the amendment, before the omission of this place of supply rule, the place of supply which was provided for intermediary under section 13(8)(b) of the IGST Act said that the place of supply of intermediary is the location of supply. So if I am sitting in India, the intermediary is sitting in India, and the recipient of this intermediary service, let us say a manufacturer is sitting outside for whom I am doing the intermediary service. Now, in this particular case, Yeah. Sorry, there was some lag. Mansi, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
1 second, I'll reshare my screen. So what is the amendment? So the amendment is now this specific rule for place of supply of intermediary service, which was under 13(8)(b, has been omitted. And after omission, we go back to the generic rule. Now see, what is the place of supply provision saying? That there are some specific rules. If you are fitting in the specific rule, you have to follow the specific rule. Otherwise, you go to the generic rule. Now, till 30th of March 26, till the new amendment comes into force, we were falling in the specific rule, which was under section 38, section 13 bracket 8 clause B, which said that the place of supply for intermediary service is the location of supplier. So it was India. It did not become export, and the consequences followed. However, after 13 after the omission of 13(8)(b, now we fall in the generic provision of place of supply, which is 13(2). And what does the generic provision says? Now the place of supply will be the recipient location. Now what will happen? If I am providing intermediary service from India to a foreigner, now it will become export of service, assuming other conditions of export have been complied with. And now it will be zero rated. So the biggest dispute in intermediary was the place of supply provision. Now, because the place of supply was making it not an export service, hence we were fighting on whether our service is intermediary or not, and hence the entire dispute on classification was happening. But now, since this itself conflicting point has been removed, and from 30th March onwards, the new provision applies. What is the new provision? The default rule for place of supply of intermediary service. Now, I believe even the classification challenge, whether your service is intermediary or not, will not be having much role, because the classification was disputed because of place of supply. So what is the effect before and after? So this is before and after. So up to 30th of March 2026, that is before the passing of Finance Act 2026, the place of supply was in the specific rule, which made supplier's location as place of supply, because of which your export status was you were not complying with the export conditions and your service was not becoming export. Hence, zero rating was not available. You were not getting refund of IGST. In fact, your ITC was also getting blocked, or you were required to reverse it. And the GST implication was 18% if IGST or CGST. Now, after this amendment, what has happened? You come to the generic rule because 13(8)(b has been deleted. And because of the generic rule, now the place of supply will be the recipient location. So now your service will become export. Once it is export, you are getting the benefit of zero rating, because of which either you can claim the refund of IGST or you can claim the refund of ITC, because your supply will be nil or zero rated. Now, importantly, now we are only talking where we are exporting intermediary service, but there is the another side of it, that is where you are importing intermediary service. Now, as RK sir was saying at the start, place like Tirupur, which is exporter of garments. So I'm sure you all would be knowing that Tirupur is the leading exporter of garments in India. Around 45% of Indian exports are only from Tirupur when it comes to hosiery garment products. Now, in this particular case, when a Tirupur manufacturer wants to export its products to US market or to various malls in the UK, what this Tirupur manufacturer will do, the Tirupur manufacturer will appoint some agent in US or in Europe to help them get connected to various buyers over there. Now, in this particular case, the situation is reversed. The intermediary is sitting outside and the recipient is sitting inside. Now, interestingly, what was happening before the amendment? Since the intermediary was sitting outside, the place of supply rule said that the place of supply is outside. So it was not becoming import of service and I was not required to pay tax under RC. After this amendment, what has changed is now if I'm taking inward intermediary services, that is I'm Indian manufacturer exporter and the intermediary is some foreigner. Now the place of supply is India because of the default rule, which is applicable now after the amendment. Now this inward intermediary service will be liable to tax under RCM as import of service. This is a key change which everybody should pay attention to, because till now we were habituated of not paying this tax. Now we will be required to pay this tax under RCM. Now, just taking you through to some important circulars. So first there was a circular, the very first circular 107, trying to clarify, but actually instead of clarifying it, actually created more litigation and more confusion. Hence, this was withdrawn. White circular number 127 ab initio. Then came the most important circular, which is today also the guiding circular for intermediary as to what is and what is not intermediary. So in this circular, they have listed out few conditions. If all these conditions are satisfied, then your services will be intermediary. So there should be three parties. There should be two supplies. Most important, the intermediary acts only as a facilitator or arranger of the main supply, but is not providing the main supply itself. The services of intermediary services are ancillary, are only in the nature of support service to the main supply. So again, the same point, it is not performing the main supply itself. And the remuneration of intermediary is distinct from the consideration of main supply. That is, it is not going to get some part of the main supply as its own consideration. And most important, it clarified is subcontracting will not be intermediary. So wherever I've got a work and I have passed it on to Mansi and get it done on subcontracted basis, this will not be intermediary. So these things have been clarified now. Now, besides this, there are two other circulars. Now, these circulars are not particularly for intermediary. Let me clarify this. These are for some other services. These are for some other supplies. However, you will find reference of intermediary in these circulars as well. And it is much in line with what has been understood till now by us through various jurisprudence. So what are these two circulars? So it is circular number 230. What does this circular says? Where the agency provides comprehensive advertising services on its own account, including procurement of media space, arranging constituents to independent principal to principal supplies. The agency is not merely facilitating, but providing the main service itself. So this is about advertisement service. Now see, in case of advertisement, what happens many times? You come to an advertising agency. So you are a company, want to market your product, you want to put an ad. Now, where do you want to put an ad? You want to run this ad between IPL matches. Whenever the IPL match is being broadcasted on Hotstar, you want to run these ads. Now you come to me, I am an advertising agency. Now what is my role? My role is not only one thing, that is getting you the slot at the Jio Hotstar between overs or between two balls. My role is much wider. I have to also do the entire work of creating the ad, everything. And one part of the work is also getting the space on the Hotstar. Now, when I am doing a comprehensive advertising service, what happens is I buy the space from Jio Hotstar in my name. This is again where this point comes, own account. So what I'm providing to you is end-to-end service. Where you want to market a product, let us say a DO. And this, for this you come to me and you have given me the mandate that you want a particular ad in this particular fashion. So I will shoot the ad for you. I will also get it done from the production house, the editing, everything. And most important, I will also get the space for you. And I will also run the ad for you the number of times you want me to run it. So I will do end to end. In this case, they have clarified that I am not acting as a facilitator may merely, in fact, I am doing the main service of advertising itself. Now, where here I would have been intermediary, only I would have helped you get the slot on Jio Hotstar. For getting the slot, if I have only provided the service of getting the slot, it means I'm connecting you and Jio Hotstar. In that case, I would have acted as an intermediary. But here I'm doing end to end, where booking slot is one part of it. Similarly, another circular which is dealing with data hosting services, similar to the above one. Above one was for advertising, where I'm booking one slot on Jio Hotstar, which is one part of my entire end-to-end advertising service. Here, the second part is data hosting service. Now, here again, what I'm doing is I am providing you end-to-end service, whereby I'm creating your content. I'm also putting the content on the website. Now, again, what I'm doing, I'm taking some space on the internet for web hosting your data. Now, again, while doing this, I'm providing you end-to-end work whereby I'll be creating the data, I'll be creating the content, I'll be designing it, and along with it, I'll be hosting it. In this particular case, again, I am not an intermediary because I am not only playing the role of getting you the space on internet, where I would have only acted as playing one mediator role of getting you the space on the internet, I would have been an intermediary. But when I'm doing end-to-end data hosting service, I do not become an intermediary. Now we come to the main leg. Why main leg? I'm saying this, though whatever discussion we did were all crucial, but this main leg is important because of the amendment. Now, what is the amendment? Again, I come back. So until now, right from service tax era till this GST era, till this date of 30th of March 2026, we were having this specific rule of place of supply under section 13 bracket 8. Now, after this amendment, what has happened? The law has omitted 13.8. So the amendment is they have omitted 13.8 from the law itself, whereby now there is no specific rule for place of supply for intermediary service. So today, intermediary is having no specific rule in the place of supply rules. Now, if there is no specific rule, the general rule will apply. And because of this general rule, which is under 13.2, now all my problems of intermediary is resolved. Now, today, whether I am intermediary or I am not an intermediary, the answer remains same. I fall in 13.2. That is, my place of supply will be the location of recipient. Now, what are the disputes relating to this? Now, when the amendment had not come, that is now I am talking about all the cases pending as on the date, which is on 30th of March. If you are defending the case, you can take these grounds as your defense. What? 13.8b is contrary to the fundamental destination principle. Why? Because instead of making the recipient as place of supply, it is making the supplier as place of supply. Second, it is violative of Article 14 because it is creating distinction between different persons. It is not giving equality. Third, it is also going against the main principle articles, that is 246A, 269A, which were brought in for the introduction of the GST. Why? Because it is indirectly imposing tax on export of service, which the law does not permit. The GST law cannot impose tax on outward transactions of export, but indirectly it is creating so it is violating your Article 246A and 269A also. Further, it is also violating Article 286. What is Article 286 is? It is putting a restriction on the power of state. Any state cannot impose tax on transactions which are outside the state. And an export transaction is definitely outside the state because it is a transaction outside the country. Now, because of this place of supply provision, when a state charges SGST on this intermediary service, which is an export service, indirectly it is violating Article 286. So these are your defenses for all the pending cases. Now, the most interesting question that comes to me, I'll just skip this. Yes. Now, this amendment has come recently after the passage of the Finance Act 2026, which is on 30th of March 2026. Now, after this date, we don't have any challenge in intermediary. Why? Because now, even if you are intermediary, the place of supply is outside India, so it will become export and all your problems are resolved. But the question is, what about all the pending cases up to 30th of March? Now, here I'm going to share with you a different perspective. Now, whenever a law is amended, a common discussion within our judicial circle is whether this amendment is retrospective, prospective, or retroactive. It means whether, or underlying question with all these words, retrospective, retrospective, etc. The underlying point is that what will happen to my past cases? Now I'll categorize your case into three. Case one, where you are providing any intermediary service post 30th of March 2026. There is no doubt at all. The new provision will apply. The place of supply is outside India as per the default rule. Problem is solved. You will also not dispute whether you are intermediary or not, because even if you are intermediary, it will be an export of service. But the problem is, what if your case is before 30th of March 26? Now, still that legal battle is going on, as I showed you in the previous slide, that whether there is any tax on that. Now, today, the legal position is up to 30th of March, you are supposed to levy a tax even on intermediary services exported outside India. This is what is the legal position. Though I hold a different view, I still believe that it can be challenged on the constitutional grounds, but that is a long battle and generally nobody wants to get into that battle. But I'm giving you a different perspective today. Now, today, when this law is amended by omitting this section 13(8)(b) from the act, they have not done this omission by bringing in a saving clause. I'm sure you all would be knowing that whenever any amendment is done whereby some old law is repealed or some provision is omitted, many times they introduced a saving clause. Now, what is the impact of this saving clause? The impact of this saving clause is that whenever a saving clause is brought in, then whatever are the pending cases for that particular issue, those pending cases can be continued thereafter. Even fresh notices can be issued thereafter for past period. But here I have a perspective whereby I want to put across this point to you. Now, if you remember, some time back, there was one similar amendment, Rule 9610, dealing with export in a particular scenario, was also omitted. And after its omission, a pertinent question comes that whoever are having pending cases under 9610, what will be the fate of those cases? I'm sure members, you all would be knowing in past 1.5+ years since this particular Rule 9610 has been omitted, there are multiple judgments by multiple high courts stating that these all cases will all get cancelled automatically and no new case can be started by the department even for the past period. Why? Because this Rule 9610, which is omitted, is also omitted without a saving clause. I'm drawing the analogy from all those judgments whereby I am taking a position that since this section 13(8)(b) has been deleted by this Finance Act and it has been deleted without a saving clause, all the past cases before 30th of March 2026, which are pending, in which you have not paid the tax, you are disputing whether it is taxable or not taxable, whether the entry is constitutional, not constitutional. I believe, dear members, it is a fit case to be fought on the grounds that we are not challenging whether the old entry was correct or not. That is a different debate. And as I said, that is a long drawn debate. I still hold the view that that can be challenged constitutionally. But instead of going into that challenge, you can come to a simpler challenge whereby I am taking a position that 13(8) has been omitted without a saving clause. So all the past pending cases will automatically get dropped. Again, automatically, no department people are going to do that. You have to take it in the writ court to challenge this particular point. So this is my first position on this particular point of what is the impact of deletion of this section without a saving clause. So wherever you are in dispute on whether GST should be levied on intermediary services before this amendment, I believe you can take this position, and I am of the belief that you will have many writ decisions which will be favoring us, saying that since there is no saving clause, no liability accrues for the past period. Then, now this I've already explained that according to me, if your cases are pending at whatever level, show cause level, appeal level, I believe this position should be taken, and you can draw analogy from Rule 9610 cases. Another question that came to me immediately on 30th of March, that is the date of passing of Finance Act 2026, is from which date is this amendment effective? Now, why this question comes? See, whenever any amendment is brought in for GST provisions in our budget, many times you will see in all the past budgets that later on there is a notification issued which says that this particular provision which was brought in the budget, now the budget got passed somewhere in March, April, May, but those provisions are made effective from 1st of October. I'm sure if you see the past 3 years Finance Acts, all the amendments made by the Finance Act in the GST law got implemented at a later date And for making it effective, there was a specific notification. Now, the same question came to me, कि Vishal, this budget Finance Act 26 got passed by both the houses of parliament and got the assent of the honorable president on 30th of March. What is the effective date of section 13(8) removal? I believe it is the date of passing of the Finance Act. Why? I take you to section 2 bracket 2 of the Finance Act 26. What it says? It says that it is providing for the effective date. It says that the effective date for all sections of this Finance Act 2 to 129 and 152 and 156 shall be 1st of April. And then it says from 153 to 155, it shall be such date as may be appointed by notification. Now, these are all the GST provisions. But let me inform you, if you remember my previous slide, over there I had mentioned that it is section 157 of the Finance Act 2026, which is omitting section 113, section 13 bracket 8 from the IGST Act. Now, which is that section? It is section 157 of this Finance Act 2026, which is saying 13(8) is omitted. There is no date given for the implementation or effectiveness of section 157. Read this section 2 bracket 2 of the Finance Act. It is not saying anything about section 157. Now, since it is not saying anything about 157, what is the date of effectiveness of 157? The date of passage of this Finance Act 2026, that is 30th of March. I can justify it by a different point. Then you will say, sir, then why other provisions of GST amendments will be applicable at a later date? The reason is all other amendments in the GST law from 153 to 155 of the Finance Act 26, they are pertaining to CGST. Now, I'm sure you'll appreciate this point that any amendment in CGST has to be backed by a parallel amendment in SGST. Why this time lag is there? Because we are passing the budget at the central level. Every state has to make a parallel amendment in their respective state acts. That will take time. Hence, for all the CGST related amendments, we say that it will become effective from a date to be notified, which will be notified maybe seeing the past through 2-3 years. Generally, it is 1st of October, that is mid of a financial year. But this amendment is of IGST Act. And for any IGST amendment, you do not require a parallel passage of any amendment in this SGST Act, that is by the state. So IGST Act, as you all know, is the complete prerogative of the center. Hence, this amendment will become effective immediately from 30th of March 2026, which is the passage of your Finance Act 2026. And then the last thing that you have to pay attention to is the fate of the contracts which are in transition. So maybe in your earlier contracts, which started before this 30th March, you would have factored that 18% cost. Now you can very well reduce the cost so that your pricing will be more effective in the foreign markets. So with this, Mansi, I have concluded my entire presentation. If you have any specific questions which you think I should address, we can take up the questions before I give my closing remarks.
No, sir. I think a few of the participants actually had the question regarding the applicability and implementation of the
But that I think I
amendment.
covered just now.
Yeah, you just covered that now, so no major question.
So I'll just give my closing remarks, then I can hand over to you.
Yes.
So, dear participants, I always follow these lines and which I always share with everyone. So it is about us professionals. So गौरवशाली था भूत, भविष्य भी महान है. It is about us professionals. So हमारा पास भी बहुत गौरवशाली था और आगे का फ्यूचर भी बहुत ब्राइट है. But what is important? गौरवशाली था भूत, भविष्य भी महान है. आप केवल इतना कीजिए, संभाल लीजिए जो वर्तमान है. So, if you are keeping yourself updated, upgraded in the present today, your future will be great. So, with these lines, I thank my indirect tax committee. I thank my mother, professional mother, that is ICI, for giving me this beautiful opportunity. And I thank a very learned lady, Mansi, for being the effective moderator, and all the participants for being attentive and raising very valid questions. Thank you. Over to you, Mansi.
So few of the participants have also requested if it's possible for you and if you are comfortable to share your PPT with them.
I'll be sharing with the ICI. That is not a problem at all. It will be shared immediately after the session.
Okay, thank you, sir. As we come to close of this insightful session, it is evident that intermediary services under GST continue to be a dynamic and evolving area, requiring both technical understanding and practical judgment. In a profession like ours, learning is not an event, but a continuous process. And sessions like these help us stay relevant, responsible, and resilient. Today's session has not only enhanced our knowledge, but also provided clarity on complexities that we encounter in our professional practice. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed speaker, CA Vishal Poddar, for delivering such a comprehensive and practical session and for simplifying a complex subject with such clarity. I sincerely thank CA Umesh Sharma, Chairman, and CA Rajendra Kumar P, Vice Chairman, GST and Indirect Taxes Committee, for their visionary leadership, guidance, and continued support in organizing such engaging knowledge sessions. My sincere appreciation to the Institute for organizing this webinar and fostering a culture of continuous professional development. I would also like to express my gratitude to the organizing team for their seamless coordination and for giving me the opportunity to moderate this session. And finally, I thank all the participants for their time, engagement, and active participation. It truly made this session meaningful. With this, we conclude today's webinar. Thank you and have a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you all. Thank you, Mansi. Good day.